Hello, welcome to another episode of MTC Snackables. My name is Rich Ross. I'm a technical architect here at the Philadelphia MTC. And again, I'm joined by my colleague,
Dave Wentzel. I'm a data and AI architect at the MTC as well.
And Dave, one of the things that I talk to customers about, we talk a lot about cloud application development, developer tools, and DevOps as part of the conversations with them, and making sure that they have the proper set of tools and proper processes in place to be able to create all the great apps and be able to have them seamlessly deploy to the cloud. What do you see something similar in the machine learning space as well?
Probably the hottest topic in machine learning and data science today is the concept of ML ops. So I know, Rich, I had an engagement about a year ago, and we had to write a model, and to actually create the data science model took about 2 weeks, and then to build the pipelines to actually deploy the model and keep the model up to date when new data was brought in took about 2 months.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and needless to say, it was very buggy and never worked. So what we have in Azure today is something called Azure Machine Learning Services and ML Ops, and we wanted to take you over that briefly today.
Yeah, let's take a look.
Okay, great. So what you see up on the screen is what a traditional software development lifecycle might look like on the left-hand side, and essentially it's code and running systems, and you're going to create CI/CD loops for that. And Rich is well aware of these things. When you get over to the right-hand side and you're injecting machine learning and data science into your existing code base, it becomes this big mess of stuff that you have to orchestrate. So specifically, you have to add tests around data and data skew and model drift, and as well as all of the usual suspects like unit tests and integration tests. So it becomes very kind of difficult to orchestrate all of that. So what we want to do is make it very simple to orchestrate, something that anybody can do and is really going to make your staff productive and allow them to solve business problems instead of just worrying about deployment.
Yep, because everybody hates deployment when it's all those manual steps.
Absolutely. So what I'll show you here is this is what a standard data scientist would do. This is a very large file, but it's a Jupyter notebook. And essentially what it does is it does some training on a deep learning model. But here's the interesting thing about Azure Machine Learning Services is what you do is just create a little scaffolding code at the top of your data scientist notebook that basically goes out and says, I want to use this compute environment called Azure Machine Learning Services, and I want to register the model and all the experiments with that, and then I allow that service to track the results of my model. So this is all scaffolding code, and we're not going to go through it here. But essentially, I set all of this up, and then again, from about this point down is everything that my data scientist would normally do. So I've injected no code in here that's specific to Azure. This is just standard code that any data scientist would likely do. And here's the interesting thing: at the very bottom, I give it one last thing: is I want to save the output of a run to a JSON file, and the output is just going to tell me what my accuracy of my model is. Okay. Because what I want to do is I want to be able to say deploy my model only if my accuracy is getting better. Right? So if my accuracy isn't getting better, probably what I want to do is alert somebody, but I don't want to deploy, rather, a model that's not getting better. Does that make sense?
Yep, you always want to be improving your models, right?
Yep. So what I'm going to show you here, Rich, here I'm in Azure DevOps, and you can also use GitHub for this, but here's all of my code that my data scientist would use, and I have it in a repo in Azure DevOps. And what I'm basically going to say is whenever my data scientist makes a change to that model, so essentially to that Jupyter notebook, and they check it in, I want my build to automatically kick off, right?
Just like we do on the developer side.
And if I go down here, I can see my build pipeline is right here. And we're not going to go through every piece of this code, but if I take a look at this, essentially what this build pipeline is doing is saying go up and spin up a cluster in my Azure Machine Learning Service where I can do my training against it, again, whenever my new model is checked in. And then I'm going to do some other checks around here, but the key thing is I'm going to save off that JSON file that tells me if my accuracy is getting better or not. And of course, this is going to give me all the other goodness involving Azure pipelines. Like, for instance, it's going to tell me if my runs are failing, right. And then I can go in and look at that. And then, again, I have this triggered on every check-in, right?
Yep. And you can always tie this into sending notifications either to email or to Teams or to any of the other integration points that we have inside of Azure DevOps.
Yep, absolutely. And then The next step is I look at my release pipeline. So what my release pipeline, this is a little bit different than what you developer .NET types do. But what I do in here is I essentially say I want to build, or I'm sorry, I want to release my code only if my JSON file with my accuracy is getting better based on my training data. So again, what I have in here is some tasks and jobs that go out there and they're actually doing that comparison using Python.
Okay.
So again, it's only going to deploy if the model's getting better. The other way a lot of people do this, Rich, is they'll say, I don't really care about if my data scientist checks in new code. I may also say if I have new training data available to me that a human has looked at and has scored, and they put that out in an Azure Blob store, I can essentially put a trigger on that and say, now do the build and the release cycle based on new data that I see essentially in my data lake.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Like I said before, ML ops is probably the hottest topic and one of the most difficult things to do in data science right now. And essentially what we've got here is a solution that we can put together in a couple of hours for you. And these are the types of services that we do at the MTC every day. And we'd love to do this for you. So we have a workshop that we can do for 1 or 2 days where we can walk you through what a modern data science pipeline looks like with your data scientists. Also working with guys like Rich and the DevOps folks that can actually build the build and release pipelines to actually put this stuff into production.
And automate all of those things for you, right?
Absolutely.
Excellent. Maybe that sounds great to you. Reach out to your account teams. We'd love to bring you in here for a session. And thanks for watching another episode of MTC Snackables. Thanks, Dave.
Thanks.